In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to make these quick, delicious garlic knots using the bread machine to do all the hard work and then baking them in the oven, and they take less than an hour to make from start to finish. The ingredients you're going to need to make these quick garlic knots is the same as my 1-hour pizza dough recipe, and I will be putting a link to that printable recipe in the description below. But what you're going to need is you're going to need 2 cups of bread flour, 1 cup of water, 2½ teaspoons of yeast. And if you are using the package yeast that comes in these little packages, a package usually contains 2 1/4 teaspoon of yeast. You can still use one of these if that's what you have, but it may just take a little while longer for the rise. But there's no need to open 2 packs to just get that 1/4 teaspoon. You can still use that. It just might take a little bit longer for the rise. And you're also going to need 1 teaspoon of salt. And then we're going to need some garlic powder, or you can mince up some fresh garlic. I'm choosing to use garlic powder today. Some Italian seasoning, and 3 tablespoons or so of butter. And this is salted butter. So let's get started putting our ingredients into our bread pan. So we're going to use the bread machine to do all the work, the hard work for us, and then we're going to bake these in the oven. And always oil the stem and the hole of your bread paddle. I've put some butter on mine, and this just makes it easier to remove the paddle so that it doesn't get stuck. Because there's nothing more frustrating than when your bread paddle gets stuck in your bread pan. So we're going to start off by adding our 1 cup of water. We're going to go ahead and we're going to put in that 2½ teaspoons of yeast, 1 teaspoon of salt, and then we're going to put our 2 cups of flour. And that's all there is to the dough. And then we're going to put this in our KBS bread machine on the raw dough cycle. Now on the KBS machine, the raw dough cycle is cycle number 11, and it has 23 minutes on it, but we're not going to use that full 23 minutes. We're going to go ahead and hit start, and we're going to let this mix up really well and check it to make sure it's not too wet or not too dry. But we're going to let it mix for probably about 5 minutes or so. I always like to scrape the sides of my pan when it starts mixing, because it is just a machine and sometimes it doesn't get everything. Okay, so our dough has been mixing for about 5 or more minutes, and now we are going to close the lid and we're going to let it rest for 10 minutes, and then we'll be back. So our dough has been resting for 10 minutes, and we are going to go back to the raw dough cycle. We're going to go back to the raw dough cycle, and we're going to let it mix or knead again for about 10 more minutes. Okay, so we allowed our dough to mix for 10 more minutes, and now we are ready to shape it. So we are ready now to shape our garlic knots. So we're going to get our dough out of our bread machine. I have here my baking sheet I lined with parchment paper, and I also oiled the parchment paper so that it doesn't stick. And I have a little bit of flour here that I'm just going to spread out. And I'm going to get my dough out of the pan. Make sure you get that paddle out. And I don't want too much flour here. I'll rake that over to the side. But, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roughly spread this into kind of like a log. And I'm going to use my bench scraper here, and I'm just going to eyeball these. If you wanted them to be perfectly all the same size, you could weigh it and divide it up and cut them into the same sizes. But I'm just going to eyeball it here, and I'm just going to cut it into little strips that I'm going to make into garlic knots. And put some of that flour to the side. And so now we have our piece of dough that is going to become a garlic knot. And what we want to do is we want to roll it, just kind of put it on the surface that you're using, and with both hands roll it like this. And you want to get it about, try to keep it even. It does not have to be perfect. Try to get it about 8 inches long or so, and you don't have to stress over that either. So you have your little rope here, and you're going to tie it into a knot. So just tie it into a knot, and some people prefer to tuck those little tails up underneath and lay it on your baking sheet. So we're going to do the rest of these and get them all knotted up. So the next step for our garlic knots is we want to melt this butter. So I'm going to pop this in the microwave and melt it. So we have our butter melted, and I'm just going to reposition these knots around. I always like to put my smaller knots on the inside and the larger knots on the outside. I just think they bake better. Try to space them apart. They will rise. Try to space them apart so that maybe they won't stick together. And so what we're going to do first is we're going to take our melted butter and we're going to add our garlic to it. And you can use fresh garlic if you want, just mince it up. In this case, I'm going to use garlic powder, and I'm going to add a good couple of teaspoons to my butter. And I'm also going to add, about a teaspoon and a half of Italian herb seasoning. And you'll need some kind of a brush, and we're just going to mix this all together. I'm just going to go ahead and use the brush to mix it with. And we're going to give each knot a good brush with this butter and herb mixture. Oh, they smell delicious already. And you can be generous. They are garlic knots. So we're going to let our garlic knots rest here for about 10 minutes, and they will rise a little bit more in the meanwhile, and then they will be ready to bake. Here are our finished garlic knots, nice and toasty golden brown. They look absolutely beautiful. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take the rest of our butter mixture, our herbs and garlic and butter, and we're going to give them another brush of butter. And just let that soak in. And then this is optional, but then to give them an extra little kick while they're still hot, we're going to take a little Parmesan cheese and sprinkle that right on top of each garlic knot. If you are enjoying this video, be sure to hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. So now that our garlic knots are done and they've cooled off a little bit, not much, let's give one a taste. So they're nice and crunchy on the outside and so soft on the inside. Just look at this. I hope you can see that steam and see how soft they are. Now you can serve these tonight. We're going to be having spaghetti, so I'm going to serve these with spaghetti, but you can just serve them just like this on a game night or a party or just as a side or a treat. And here I have some pizza sauce. You could use marinara sauce or spaghetti sauce and to dip them in, or even ranch. And let's give this a taste. This is a delicious treat that I know you and your family are going to love, and it's easy and it's quick, and I hope you'll give it a try. Remember, the recipe link to the dough is in the description box below, and be sure to check out one of my other videos here. God bless. Bye-bye.